2014 was an interesting year of games, to say the least. There were a lot of unexpected gems, curious disappointments, and naturally good games. While I've reviewed a fair amount of these games already, I feel like this year was entertaining enough to look back quickly on everything I picked up as a way to send off this wild ride of releases. Banished. I opened up this year with a quaint city builder with the mechanical spirit of Dwarf Fortress, but lacking in late game satisfaction. The game started off neat, but you build up to nothing impressive outside of size. The game opened up to mods quite recently, so hopefully that remedied my late game grievances with Banished. Strider 2014. Take the most badass cyber ninja and make him a Metroidvania, and that's what you got. The game was above average overall, but I love the redesign of everything in the Strider world. Shame the PC port was so poorly optimized I couldn't fathom it, dear god. One-Way Heroics. A pretty damn fast pseudo-roguelike. The multiverse idea was squandered, but the core gameplay was simple and exciting. Despite having very little story, what little I got from it was really charming. Ikaruga. An old game that got re-released on Steam this year. Great port too, which is why it deserves this honorable mention. It's great for those that missed the hype train so long ago. Like me! Not the Robots. Technically a super late 2013 release, it's a neat little randomly generated arcade game about eating office furniture. The gameplay is alright, but I thought the flavor text for world building was hilarious. It's worth a try if it's on sale. Vertiginous Gulf. A mini-golf game still in early access. I have a soft spot for this kind of game, and this scratches that itch with style and cleverness. It also has multiplayer now, so that's a pretty cool thing. Gigantic Army. One of two Assault Suit Vulcan callback games released this year, Gigantic Army was fast-paced and challenging, but suffers on the visual side of things. The mech designs also look fantastic. That's really cool. Reflex. A neat shmup released this year on Steam, but was on Good Old Games and other smaller distribution services earlier. Reflex has a neat visual direction, decent difficulty curve, and has a neat bullet reflect mechanic. I haven't played much of it, but I really enjoyed what I tried out. Don't Starve, Reign of Giants. The cute survival sim got an expansion with a lot more neat mechanics. Summer is so frustrating though, holy god. I can't even use the caves to escape the heat. That doesn't make any sense! Strike Suit Zero, Director's Cut. I really liked the initial Strike Suit Zero release. How did they manage to mess up the game engine so bad with the Director's Cut? It runs so poorly now! Tower of Guns. A randomly generated first-person shooter game with the spirit of the classics such as Doom and Quake. Tower of Guns is a fun, fast-paced game and a great way to burn idle time. It lacks variety and randomness, but it makes up for it with the stupid stories that play out that have no relevance to the game at all. It's just really charming. I'd recommend giving it a try at least once. Dark Souls 2. Yes, I play AAA games once in a while, get off my back. Dark Souls 2 was a mechanical masterpiece and I loved playing it just because it felt so smooth and cathartic. Too bad it lacked anything impressive to kill. Nothing boss-wise compared to Demon Souls or Dark Souls boss designs at all. This was the big thing that killed Dark Souls 2 in my eyes. At least From got their PC design philosophy together. Hound IX. The other Valken homage, and technically not new since this is a re-release of a PSP game. Gameplay is interesting, but man, there is way too much going on in the HUD at times. Also has good mech designs. They're really great. Transistor. Man, I was excited for this game. And the hype was there, but not at the same time. Transistor had a cool world with neat gameplay mechanics and Supergiant's patented style of presentation. Shame none of it made any sense due to the glaringly obvious budget limitations. Good in its own right, but compared to Bastion it felt somewhat lacking as well. Out There Somewhere. A greenlight game in the vein of VVV meets Portal. It was a cool idea with nice visuals that I enjoyed for all of the 20 minutes it took for me to beat the game. I'm not joking, it's that short. 1001 Spikes. Probably one of the meanest platformers I've played yet. A tight platformer with insidious level design and some fun gimmicks that I couldn't help but enjoy. Story also gets credit for being hilarious and fun enough for me to stick with. Shame I'm not good enough at all to beat the Antarctic, that place is... ugh. Tabletop Simulator. A video game, but not really. Berserk Games gets credit for making a physics engine that helped to introduce me to the wide berth of board and tabletop games that I missed out on as a kid. If you flip the table though, I will gut you like a fish. Jazzpunk. I have no idea what the fuck even happened in this game, but goddamn it was a fun and hilarious ride. Totally worth checking out. Adult Swim continues to prove how good they are at picking out clever ideas to publish. Betrayer. A colonial first-person shooter horror game made by the guys who made Fear. With such a pedigree of developers, how did they make a game so boring? The writing was too simple and uninteresting, and the combat got repetitive really quickly. The game ran smooth like butter though, so that's a plus at least. Shovel Knight. An action platformer made as an homage to the golden age of NES-era games. It does a good job of mixing random game ideas into its own thing, though you could point to various mechanics easily and say, hey, that's from this game! Difficulty's a bit on the easy side, but it's so easy to come up with various challenge runs to do. The presentation and music are fantastic, which adds to the game's charm. It's probably one of the best game releases this year. Astaburi. A shmup that focuses on cutting and dodging bullets rather than wading through them, Astaburi exudes style and cathartic gameplay. The game gets a bit too anime at times, but you could turn that off and enjoy the fast-paced madness. Definitely a game I enjoyed playing just to acquire talent. Wasteland II. A well-programmed successor to the original Wasteland, providing a well-written world with a wide variety of characters and a story that's fucking long! I have 60 hours into this game and I'm not even halfway done! I'm all for substance, but I feel like I'm chewing fat half the time. It also feels a tad too optimistic for a post-apocalyptic world, but that's probably just my imagination. Gauntlet 2014. This reboot is really interesting. It's a clever reimagining of the classic Gauntlet gameplay, turning the 4 basic former shoot guys into distinct players that do cool and unique things. It's a little on the short side compared to the classics, but I like what they did. It kept the spirit of the former game as well, so veterans will enjoy it to some degree just because of the cute stuff they did, like, you know, shooting the meat. Civilization Beyond Earth. I feel kinda bad for saying this, but my friend bought me an overpriced Civ 5 mod. 80% of the game felt like they just hastily spray-painted space in front of things, and a bunch of mechanics were shamelessly recycled from Civ 5. It also somehow runs worse than Civ 5, which stunned me. This was probably the biggest disappointment for me this year. The Binding of Isaac Rebirth. They fixed it! Nicalis actually fixed my video game cocaine addiction! It plays so good! It's a shame that everything involving the Lost is crock and bullshit though. Good god, what were you thinking, Ed? Legend of Grimrock 2. The sequel to the underground RPG hit released in 2012. I cannot rant enough about how improved everything is. Grimrock 2 is an example of how to handle sequels. It runs kinda slowly on my PC, but I'm not sure if it's due to optimization or my outdated hardware. Valkyria Chronicles. The PC port of a 2009 PS3 game. It gets an honorable mention because this port plays like a dream. There are some slight shenanigans with the gameplay due to the bumped up framerate, but this is the definitive version of Valkyria Chronicles. Don't bother getting the PS3 version anymore, this is better in every conceivable fashion. Lisa. An RPG Maker game set in a post-apocalyptic world, focused around one man trying to save the last woman on Earth. I really wish this game wasn't released so late because it's a top contender for my 2014 Game of the Year. Everything in the story has so much personality and the developer does so many great things to mess with the player. It's also pretty dark for a post-apocalyptic setting, which is something I expect and was not disappointed by. The game's controls feel really clumsy though, but it's an RPG Maker game, for better or worse. And that's the year of 2014 in video games in a nutshell. I know I missed a lot of releases because I don't actively partake in the AAA gaming industry, but hey, there were a lot of cool releases this year and I hope you had as many fond memories as I do. See you later, 2014.